like a businessman. And this is what is lacking in the whole chain of the onboardment of PHCN. Because it appears we moved from a government business that is put in the hands of another government bureaucracy. Because both the 11 discos and some discos are still operating as if it is still government business. And that is where the problem is. Because, like Azura said, if you're running a business, you have to conceptualize that business from the beginning to the end. And you should do it in such a way that you are not depending on any Father Christmas that will take off your body. So I think the Azura formula or the Azura model should be what maybe this committee at the end of the day should maybe bring Azura to come and share their success story with the other Gencos and also copy to the discos. Because when you're running a business, it should be a business, you should invest. So mine is not a question to Azura, it's just to appreciate them. You see, when we started this process, I was one person that was saying, why is it Azura have sovereign guarantee? Why is it Azura is this? Why is it Azura is that? But as you go into it, you begin to see that those that floated that idea knew what they were doing from beginning. And they tried to make sure that the road to success were well paved. And that is why they are succeeding. So thank you, MD of Azura, for, we hope the other Gencos are listening, and also the
presentation for this panel, that's with the shortness of time. And I don't know why I'm so lucky with shortness of time, because yesterday, most people were talking 15, 20 minutes. The moment it was my time, I was cut short within 3 minutes. And I represent 30 generation companies. I am making my complaints. Now today, when it's my turn, it's time for lunch again. Everybody just see my trouble. Anyway, I have submitted my presentation to the Secretariat and the relevant, but I would like to make a few comments within the short time that I've been allocated. Thank you, fellow panelists. I listened to everything that was being said. And like I said yesterday, when I spoke yesterday, the MD of Azura was not here, because I had to ask my colleague, was Edu around yesterday? He said no. You can see from what he started, everything I managed to say within the shortness, he mentioned them. Now, honorable members, critical stakeholders who are here, I would want us to ponder on some things. I like us to ponder. Nigeria started generating power first in 1896. If you calculate 1896 to now, it's 130 years. 130 years, and we are, if you divide what we are currently generating, it will give us 30 megawatts per annum. A country of 230 million persons. We are only generating about 30 megawatts. That is not to say that is what the generating companies are willing to generate. BP has a record. At the day of privatization, power generation that was available that day was 3,427 megawatts. If you see my presentation, you will see the slide. There is no time. I would have loved to just talk to only that slide so that Nigerians can see. The presenter, can you just go to that? Just only one slide. The graph or the table on power generation. Just that one. Only that one. If you can get it. Oh, is that what I sent? No. This is not my presentation. Okay, yeah. No, this is not my presentation. Sorry. Maybe I must have sent you the wrong one. Anyway, if you look at it, you see that as at 2020, power generation was already 8,000 megawatts. From the 3,427 at privatization. Power is growing but there is a bottleneck. And why is there a bottleneck? Like yesterday I mentioned, Embed spoke very sweet. TCN spoke sweeter. Next spoke perfect. So where is the problem? Today, Edu has mentioned it again. So where is the problem? If everything is right, I know, honorable members, some of you are already tired. You have a lot to do. This is a political season, and you're seated here. You'll be seated here till Thursday, listening to us ramble. If everything were right, you should be doing something better. Maybe engaging your stakeholders and constituencies. However, you're here because there's something wrong. And the something wrong is very, very critical. We like to hide things by sweeping under carpet, but I don't want to sweep under carpet. So, one, ponder that we have been generating power for 130 years. Another thing I want us to ponder on is the fact that when, was it BP or Embed? Yes, I think it may be one of them speaking. They mentioned that when the money comes into the market, as in whatever the Discovery decide to remit into the market, there is a table. And on that table, CBN is one of the first to collect money. It interests you to know that that money CBN is collecting is not a money that was loaned to the generating companies. It was a loan that the regulator approved the discourse to take and put the base on the market. The generation companies also take loans. They go to their banks. If you've been reading the news, you hear Egbin has been threatened severally by banks to take them over. Several of the Gencos are receiving one threat or the other from their lenders that they will take them over because they are not able to pay back their loan. However, the loans that are taken by the discos are put on the market payment system. So CBN is deducting money that the discos have collected to improve the sector. I want you to note that as well. Now, another thing that I also want you to know is, when we hear that there is a tariff shortfall and that the discos are paying about 35% that NEC asked them to pay. Even that 35%, it will interest you to know, call the disco remittance order, DRO. They are not meeting 100% of it. From 2019 till date, they've not met 100% of it. So I sell 100 naira worth of power to you, and you're told to pay me only 35 naira. Even that 35 naira, you're not even meeting up, and nothing is happening to you. I want you to note that. Another thing I want you to note again is that 65 naira that is assumed in the MITO methodology. There is no document from government. There is no budgetary line. There is no framework model provided anywhere that shows that government promised that they will pay the 65 naira. There is none. It is an assumption because what was said was that since government, we don't have a cost-reflective tariff, that 65 naira invariably will be paid by government. The budgets are normally annually presented to you, the honorable members. And you have never seen any line that shows this money will be used to pay generating companies. I want to put to everyone here, humbly and respectfully, that the power generating companies were scammed. From the get-go. You have heard what Azura mentioned. The same thing that Azura is being given. I know one of the honorable members mentioned that so that the Gencos will learn. If you know how the other Gencos are feeling, they feel cheated. They feel scammed. They feel as patriotic investors, they have been taken for granted. I mentioned yesterday that the sovereign guarantee was designed for all Gencos. It was a failure. Dr. Ngozi Wela mentioned that if we carry on the sovereign guarantee, the country will collapse because the payment performance of the discos is very poor. That was why Embed was brought. I also want to put it on note that in addition to the 850 million USD that was taken from Eurobond, 50 million USD was added to Embed, making it 900 as part of the proceeds from the sale of Egbin. Remember yesterday I told you, I've been in the sector from 2011. So I was in BP, I think my brother will remember. And I can tell you from that time where all the dead bodies are. The skeleton, the rats, everywhere, where they are hidden. I know where they are. I wanted to also correct, my brother has gone, but TCN was not concessioned. TCN, the plan was to concession TCN, but the government felt that the best thing as a trial should be a management contract. So Manitoba Hydro was engaged among several other bidders. My brother from BP should confirm. So several other bidders, the best transmission in the world. And Manitoba Hydro won it. I was in the room, honorable members and Mr. Chairman and all critical stakeholders. I want to submit here, and for the record, it should be corrected. I don't work for Manitoba. I don't even know where their office is. I've never even known their contact. But one of the reasons why I read law is to fight injustice. And on the 30th, I want to put it on notice that the Manitoba Hydro contract was signed on the 31st of July 2012 at BP Common Room by 12 o'clock. I was there representing my agency, the Presidential Task Force on Power. I was then one of the advisors to the then President, Senior Technical Advisor. So I represented the Presidential Task Force in the signing ceremony. This signing, after the signing, recall that Professor Batinaji resigned on the 28th of August 2012. Before even that contract was implemented, the minister that was to superintend over that Manitoba Hydro had resigned. I don't want to go into how he resigned. That is not in my scope. However, a new minister came. And now the Manitoba Hydro contract between Manitoba and government and the TCN. The reason why they only brought 9 staff was because as at then, my brother should confirm too, because he's from BP. As at then, TCN had 9 departments. I don't know currently how many they have. I don't work there. But then, it was 9 departments. And the contract says they will bring 9 top management from Manitoba Hydro Canada to superintend over the 9 departments of TCN. Now, the contract says that 9 heads will appoint deputies. The heads, the 9 heads that were supposed to resign according to the contract, did not resign. They stayed put. They now formed a me versus you. My brother confirmed. Me versus them. When the Manitoba Hydro came to work, they have changed all the locks. They didn't let them enter office. Now Manitoba Hydro could not work. They ran to the Presidential Task Force. And whatever I present here, fact check it. I am not just a lawyer in Nigeria, I'm also a lawyer in the UK. So my credibility and my legal practice is on the table here. So whatever I'm putting to you is the truth. Now, as I'm telling you, that contract was amended, and they brought an amended, a watered-down version where those 9 heads of departments that were to leave so that Manitoba can step in and turn around transmission company were not allowed to work. So they tried, they ran to their embassy, they ran to the presidency, they ran to BP, they ran to the Presidential Task Force. We tried to intervene. Those people say, we no go gree, yo, we no go gree. And they did not agree. The minister then, you can find out, I don't want to mention his name, allowed it, and it continued en masse. And Manitoba could not work. So they went back to Canada, and they now outsourced that contract because they couldn't work. People advise them that if you cancel this contract, it will affect your credibility. So you better see how you can implement it. So Manitoba Hydro outsourced the contract, and they brought in people from Bangladesh, from different places, to come and complete their contract. So, like I said, I don't hold brief for Manitoba Hydro. But let the truth be told. I cannot be sitting here and be hearing what is not right and keep quiet, because I would have contravened the reason for which I read law.
Thank you.
On that note,
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.
This goes at the last mile in honesty between us before the customers. So what we do is to take, my name is Engineer Vincent Ekwepu. I'm the Managing Director, CEO of Enugu Distribution Company, Disco. So what we do is to take the bulk supplied by TCN and distribute to customers. We take from at 33 kV level, and we distribute to customers at 0.415 kVA. So we are the one the customers see. Mr. Chairman, you'll see that this is a chain, it's a continuous chain. From the gas supplier to the disco is a continuous chain. So wherever there's a break, it will affect our ability to distribute to the discos, to the customers. For example, just look at what happened yesterday and some part of today. There was a time there was no supply here, and what we normally have to do is to, Eco Disco. What is Eco Disco doing? Are they not recognizing that there's a very important function happening here? Why should there be no supply? But for us, as a disco to maintain supply in such a big occasion. We don't only need to maintain our line, we need to interface with TCN. TCN must guarantee that this supply will not be taken off from their end. And then TCN will also have to tell you that they also need to look at the system and see if there's no issue that has to do with system disturbances. Okay, so for us to maintain supply and guarantee that this occasion will have good supply and constant supply within the time we are going to have this meeting, this value chain has to be maintained. That's the only way it can work. So that is what is really happening. So when we took over the value chain, that's the discourse value chain, what we did was to invest. First of all, wanted to map our customer base. We invested in GIS-enabled customer enumeration. And what came out of this enumeration were very instructive, Mr. Chairman. We saw that aside from what we are giving to government as our metering gap, we now start seeing there are people connected to people connected to people. So you have a supply, you are the one in the main house, you are giving your neighbor supply at the back, your neighbor at the supply, the neighbor also have given somebody else. So when you now quantify the total number of metering gap, it became exponential. So that is the reason why we are having this so much metering gap. Aside from the fact that government has invested through CAPME, through MAP, the DISCO also started having vendor financing. We also had to do with investing also some meters. But the gap was so huge that we needed government intervention. And government is really doing that. We also had to go into automation. Because the second thing we did was to bring visibility to the network. You know, before now, we remember how it used to be, that you hardly will know what is happening in the system. So what we had to do was to invest in automation. Like I can tell you that ECO has SCADA, where they can actually switch off their customers from various injection substations. Some other discos also have various automation. We have CIS, customer interface system. We have so many automations like OMS. We also have outage management systems from various discos. That's what you want. And the essence is to bring visibility of the network to the customers, to the disco. So if there's something happening in the network, we can easily see it and deal with it. And we also invested in network infrastructure. But some of these things don't become so easy or visible when you are investing and we are having problem in the upstream. You can invest, like injection substations is where we have the bulk transformers for a disco. You have injection substation, then you now have the smaller transformers that are very close to us. So if you invest in injection substation, and after investing, you have a system feeding it from the TCN on 33 kV level that are having problem. You also will not be able to get the benefit of that injection substation you have invested. The same thing with transformers. We invested in transformers, but the gap was so huge. So the investment we are doing is not, though it's visible, because you can see from what I've been giving, we have seen today here that the initial offtake was quite much more lower than what we have now. That means there is investment. Yeah, it's not as huge as possible, as maybe noticeable, but we have moved from where it used to be pre-privatization to this stage, which means there's investment in the network, in both transformers and injection substations. We have had considerable investment in all those.
Conclude.
So I just thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there's so much to say when it has to do with discourse, because so many things had to come to play for us to get this thing work. But my own take here, which is my last point, is why not let's look at this way. We can decide that, look, because we don't have so much fund in the country, we can take a segment from start to finish. For example, we can just take the industrial areas in every state. Let's look at the discourse part. What is it going to do? Let's look at TCN also. The lines, do they have enough capacity? Let's look at GEMCO that's available to just feed that line. We can start from there. As we finish that one, we'll now go to the commercial area. It will reduce the exposure of the government, in terms of the funding we need to do in network. That will be helpful. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Disco, please, a round of applause. Well done. I'll quickly call.
Privilege for the consumer to be able to speak at this moment. I want to say that the problem we have from what everybody has said here is indiscipline. Indiscipline, failure to enforce discipline has ruined this country. And when you have managerial indiscipline and you introduce capitalism in it, citizens become slaves. Because capitalism is all about making money. without even rendering, because the capitalist can kill you for money. And that's what is happening. Let me say, for instance, TCN has been divided, NISO has come in. The argument about consumers are not paying, why not create a consumer protection center, electricity consumer protection center, to number one, enumerate the investment of consumers in infrastructure. The disco man that is talking here, I come from the same zone with him. In my community, every infrastructure there, we are provided by my people. My community was kept out of supply for almost 2 years, yet the disco brought bills to be paid. A community bought transformer with 17 million, paid the disco to energize it after paying for installation. Disco was going there with the POS to collect. As I speak with you now, in my community, Enugu disco staff goes there with POS to collect money without any bill. And they go there with a ladder the same day. If you don't pay, they climb and disconnect you 20,000, 18,000. No bill, no meter on the transformer. Much as I agree, people say electricity is a product. Yes, it's a product. But if it's a product, it shouldn't be a criminal business. If it is a product, it should be built according to the law. Collection should be according to the law. Treatment of the consumer should be according to the law. But when you criminalize it, what do you want the people to do? Assuming the people now rise. The people, they went and exhumed a transformer. A community used their money to buy. Used combined forces, army, civil defense, police, went and exhumed the transformer. Kept it with them for almost 2 years. And this community was arrested when their youth rose up to complain. They went to police and even me, they've accused my community. Imo State Electricity Regulatory Commission chairman is here. We raised complaint to the commission. They wrote a letter and told them we fought them. By the time we went there was no evidence of fighting them. Now, EEDC and Transpower is owing non-compliance debt to Imo State Electricity Regulatory Commission up to 679 million naira. And they are not licensed. Yet they go to every community there and be collecting money forcefully. When you do this kind of a thing to citizens, how do you want them to live? And such people will boldly come before the government, come before the parliament, and begin to talk. It's not about technicalities. From what Ember and NEC has said, the question is, how has NEC regulated the sector within the context of consumer protection? NEC has customer protection regulation. Is there any enlightenment? NEC will go to from here to Kano with 44 local governments. I said they went for complaint resolution or whatever they call it. They won't go for enlightenment. And then who goes to the local government? 44 local governments. You go to 5-star hotel, stay there. The next day you call some few people in the hall and say you've done enlightenment. You go back. How do you cascade it down to the local governments where the consumers are? These are problems. So I am suggesting that electricity consumer protection agency should be set up. Let us enumerate the quantity of money consumers have invested. Let us know what the discos have invested. And let the discos be punished. Let me tell you, Section 209, 210, 211, 214, 213, is all about electricity theft, vandalism. Ask the regulator. How has the regulator enforced that? The customer protection regulations that deal with metering, billing, the regulator doesn't enlighten them on it. Where is orientation agency here? The orientation agency that should get feedback for government on their policies. We try to do enlightenment. The orientation agency said they have no money. If we bring money, they can lend their name. Where is Consumer Protection Commission here? They should be here to talk about the consumers. So you can see that issues concerning consumers are not really given attention. Now, when you treat consumers like cash cow, people, okay, look at remittances is what NEC talked about. NEC talked about, so because you want remittance, you don't talk about the rights of these consumers. Nigeria is a signatory to United Nations Covenant on Civil, Political and Cultural Rights. Nigeria is a signatory to United Nations Covenant on Human Rights. If we violate these rules, why are we a democracy?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chief Okorie. Please, a round of applause. Digest. Bring the issue to the fore and digest it accordingly, and I think we have substantially achieved that. Honorable colleagues, I'm sure you have taken note of some of the issues that will require further explanation from the stakeholders here. You have taken note of that?
Chief Tony, I'm Akin Bello. I'm the Commercial Manager Gas for Renaissance Africa. So thanks, Mr. Chairman, honorable members, and other stakeholders. I also stand on existing protocols. For us as gas producers, we're actually the base of the value chain. So everybody assumes that Gencos are the base. No, we're actually the base. We actually invest the money to make most of it possible. We put down millions of dollars to drill our well, do the tests and everything, and then we actually get the gas out. And at one session, I understand that we were told to be more patriotic. And it is a little bit funny because we continue to produce and supply gas to all the Gencos today, despite the fact that they have not paid us, sometimes in the last 10 years. They have not paid us. So if you calculate how much MBET is owing me, how much the NIPP is owing me, how much BP is owing me, you understand? How much NEPCO is owing me. NEPCO's debt is as far back as 2009. And we continue to supply the gas. So as of today, our total debt is in excess of, the last time we calculate to get to SA Energy's office, we had $239 million owed to us for producing gas for power companies across the nation. For our company, we used to be called SPDC. So we're the pioneer gas producers. So PHCN used to get gas from all power companies in Nigeria, used to get gas from us. And therefore, those amounts are still owing till today. And then presently, NIPP, we supply Geregu, Olorunshogo through NDPHC, and they are still owing us. We came to this summit primarily to meet a lot of our debtors, to engage them. You understand? I mean, my friend here, we had discussion during the afternoon, during the lunchtime, so that we can get going. How do we do these things? But from our own part and our own perspective, so we have the value chain starting from us, the gas producers, to Gencos, to TCN, and then to Discos. But we are in an industry where money only comes from one source, and it comes from the Discos. So you see gas and power flowing from one direction, and then money can only flow back from that direction. Nowhere else in the entire value chain can generate money except the Discos. And for now, the Discos are not under any compulsion, at least from our own end, to pay anybody. Discos collect money and pay themselves, and then pay the balance to Genco. The Gencos have to remove their operating costs because they have to continue to operate before somebody remembers that gas suppliers are there. And in national interest, we cannot shut down the gas. Today, if Oga Bello from NDPAC calls me, I will threaten from now till tomorrow. But I know that if I make the mistake of shutting down that gas supply, I will get a call from the presidency to say what's going on. My MD will call me 5 minutes later and say, let's start it up again. So we're in a problem where we just continue to produce. But just like the lady, our chairman of the Association of Gencos said, we need to address some policy issues. Discos presently are owned 40% by the federal government. What percentage of that shares does federal government invest in Genco, in the Discos, to hold on to 40%? And the fact that federal government is holding on to that 40%, Discos continue to see themselves as if they are a federal government company. And therefore, the energy that is supposed to be a product, they also see it as something that is for social services, because government owns 40% of it. I think it's time for government to look at it. Do we let go of that 40%? Maybe reduce our stake to 5% or completely sell everything, and let those Discos purely be a limited liability company that is buying power and selling power. And then government can decide in its budget to subsidize energy to certain classes of Nigerians that the Discos can identify either by meter number, meter classification, and then for whatever energy they produce, they can give to them. That is one. Otherwise, the federal government can subsidize the gas at source. Because if the cost of gas is much lower, then the cost of producing every kilowatt hour of energy becomes lower as well. Now, NMDPRA, Engineer Musa is not around. They pride themselves. So Engineer Musa and his team, NMDPRA, they pride themselves on being able to keep the gas price the domestic-based price to be low. But the implication of that is that gas producers are finding it tough to invest in the domestic market. So you are investing your millions, you have no guarantee of payment, and yet you have a competing product to invest in. A number of times you see that we are just going to invest in that one. So Musa and his team come up with DGDO every year, and they struggle to get gas producers to meet that DGDO because it's not very much economically viable for us to invest in. But if the government says, I want to make sure that the price of electricity is lower, set the price of gas at the right price, and then government simply subsidize the cost of gas. And that, therefore, you can measure, because one, the gas that we supply to Gencos, we give the data to CBN every month, we give the data to NUPRC every month, and unlike fuel subsidy where you can just claim it, it is always there. We pay royalties on whatever we supply. So if we claim to have supplied more, we will pay more royalties. So we are not going to be in that business. So it can actually subsidize a finite amount of gas. And that's enjoyed across the nation or translated to the lower class or to poor people. And you can say all band Bs will pay at this amount. And that becomes sustainable and is something that we can all invest in. But I think I'm looking at the House of Assembly. It's time for us to change the policies. Fair government, let go of your stake in discos, make them private companies so that everybody can hold them accountable, and then change your regime to ensure that it's sustainable and enables the gas producers to do more. And also, the federal government, you are owing us a lot of money. We are not seeing it in the budgets. So there's really no plans for you to pay back. And we are asking investors to invest more when they're kind of getting the debt. Yes, we need policy changes and your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akin Bello. Please, a hand of applause.
Privileged to be here. I'm sorry I have to come in this morning from Abuja because, like I said, I got this invitation late. Quickly, what I'm going to say is in a question or questions format, because from what I have seen here, the committee is set to probe the reforms and expenditure based on what you have put out there. And there are critical and pertinent questions that the committee should ask, find answers to from the stakeholders that are sitting here. Number one, Bureau for Public Enterprise that midwifed the privatization exercise. Yeah. The question that BP should be asked is this. The investors in 2013 put down what is called acquisition capital for the 60% equities of the assets they acquired. We are told here that the Gencos have invested and ramped up their capacities. The question is, at the point of privatization, did BPE benchmark how much the Discos, TCN, and others should put in place, should put down in terms of investment? And the question is, how much has the Discos particularly invested after the payment of the acquisition capital? That is number one. We come down to NBET, Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trader or Trading Company. NBET is not supposed to last up to this moment. It's a stopgap. But the question NBET has to answer to Nigerians include number one. I recall in 2017, there was this crisis between other operators in the value chain that were accusing the distribution companies of not remitting the actual amount of money or revenues collected in the market. Gas suppliers were being owed. I remember in 2017, the former chief of staff, late chief of staff to President, invited some of us. We went to his office and we laid down a lot of things. And that prompted the federal government of President Buhari through the CBN to release a sum of 701 billion as a credit facility to NBET. And this money was from between 2017 or 2018 to 2019. And this money was meant for MBET to pay for the shortfalls in settling the invoices of the gas suppliers. It was a credit facility, not subsidy. When that money was exhausted, another 600 billion was made available by CBN as a credit facility. The question is, when and how did this credit facility given to MBET translate or metamorphosized into subsidy? Please, let's be clear. This money was not given to the Gencos. This money was given by CBN to MBET. And I repeat, as a credit facility. So that the suppliers will be serviced and they don't shut down. And why was it done? If we are talking of liquidity in the power sector, it was around 2016, under MITO 2015, that came into effect on the 1st of February 2016, that we started talking of liquidity in the power sector. Do you know why? The Discos had exhausted the collection of legacy debts. The Discos had exhausted the collection of legacy debts. And they were exposed because there was no money to invest. I cite an example. A community under Bini Disco, Udu local government area of Delta State. 32 of the 39 communities were taken out of supply on the 16th of November 2016. They reached out to me, to us, and I went there to investigate. And we discovered that 587 million was legacy debt owed by the defunct Alaja Steel Complex. And because a son of that local government, Joseph Onihi, who was the general, I think MD or general manager of Chevron Oil, is from that area, they went and exhumed this 587 million that was owed to the defunct NEPA and PSCN, and then brought it to the community to pay. Emmanuel Oduahan was the governor of Delta State. Oviam, senator, was the deputy senate president. We went in there and conducted what is called, I asked for, debt verification and reconciliation. We met in Asaba, and Benedisco came on board. Apart from the 587 million, which was the legacy debt, I'm pointing out this thing to know, for you to know what is really going on, because we'll sit in here and they'll be telling you things you want to hear. They will not tell you the things that we have. As a matter of information, I conducted a national survey on the quality of electricity supply to Nigerians between 2018, 2019, 2020, sponsored by MacArthur Foundation. We have data, raw data of what is going on in the power sector. So, do you know what we reconciled? Apart from the 507 million, there was another 300 million. And when we did the reconciliation, I only went to the meters, the TCN meters, at the transformer level, the transformers at the TCN level, and picked all the readings, unknown to them. And it was 10.2 million naira that the people were owing. I wrote to BP, I wrote to NEC, I wrote to the Federal Minister of Power. Who collects this money? They said they were not entitled to collect this money. Can BPE tell Nigerians how much Nigerians were owing in electricity before privatization? How much was collected by the Discos? Do we have records? So these are the questions. Now come down to NEC itself. The NEC officials who spoke here talked about having a division of legal and compliance. Legal and compliance. Now, a regulator, you give it to them. They are good at churning out regulations and orders. Very effective. The question is, do they have a mechanism in place to monitor and enforce compliance? I cite an example. From June 2024, when the tariff bans came on board, the regulator issues monthly orders, supplementary orders, to the 2024 MITO, multi-year tariff order. Now, in the annexure of that order, they publish feeders where the distribution companies failed to meet the committed service level of 20 hours of electric supply. When we are sitting down here, just in March this year, we conducted a study in Eco Disco, and I can tell you between Victoria Land, Eco, towards, Aja axis, 85 feeders, 85 feeders were either recommended for downgrade to band B or band C or compensated. I engaged the officials of Eco Disco here in Marina, in the office, and they claim not to be aware. They claim not to be aware that NEC issues such orders. But now you go to the same annexures, you discover that there are feeders that have been recommended for upgrade from lower bands to higher bands. And the discos implement this without being prompted. Does NEC have the capacity or a mechanism or structure in place to monitor compliance? Who suffers? Nigerians. The other questions I would like to raise here. If I have the time, if I was given the time, I would have. We don't speak grammar here. Electricity, we speak with data. We speak with data. When we are talking of indebtedness in the power sector, somebody made a statement here that Nigerians they don't pay electricity. Who told you that? Who says so? Who says so? I have looked through the data, the GENCO's release of generation. I have gone through all the quarterly reports of NEC is their own documents. We never generated it. You discover that Nigerians are paying. If Nigerians are not paying, why are they collecting so much money today? Billions. AEDC, for instance, if they are here.
Thank you very much.
Please, sir, can I just conclude this?
Mr. Okedo Bonga, no, you have exhausted the...
Okay, 5 minutes.
The 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, we have to make progress. So thank you so much. I believe you are able to scrutinizing that. And you'll be called open. By the time we go back to Abuja, the second phase and the final phase would be to engage you on any issue that we feel we are not satisfied that has to do with your expenditure. So we are taking note of all these issues raised, and surely I believe it will help the committee. I will read the mandate of the ad hoc committee, even though if you look at the brochure, it's there. For most of you that have the brochure. But number one, the House resolved to set up ad hoc committee to conduct a comprehensive and forensic audit into all funds allocated and expended on the implementation of the Electric Power Sector Reform Program from 2007 to 2024 under the now repealed Electric Power Sector Reform Act 2005, re-enacted as the Electricity Act of 2023. And also conduct an investigation into the activities of transmission company, all discourse, their remittances, the tariff regime, and to ascertain the effectiveness or otherwise of the privatized power sector to the country. This policy. 2, invite the Minister of Power, the Managing Director of the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading, Head of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, Rural Electrification Agency, and other relevant stakeholders to appear before the committee to provide details and justification for the funds received and spent. 3, mandate the ad hoc committee to examine the terms and conditions of all loans, grants, and agreements received for power sector, and to verify the status of all projects captured under the program and report its findings and recommendations to the Honorable House for further legislative action. Section 88 and 89 also enabled the committee and the House to invite any other person in the court of investigation who happens to fall as either a serving or even a former officer whose maybe action maybe point towards deliberately undermining the good intention of the policy. That's why most of those retired civil servants and even those captain of industries that served and retired years back may likely be invited. So we are on it, Mr. Okonga. The committee is overdoing. We are getting to the root of the issue. We turn in our report and recommendations. But the fundamental issue here is for us to tell ourselves the truth, to bring out the facts as they are. What the current situation, is this sustainable? Certainly not. So there must be a point where we draw a line and then we build from the beginning, or we consolidate a little that we can say we have achieved. Thank you very much, the panelists. You have all done wonderfully well, and I believe the committee is very happy with you. The stakeholders are also very happy with you. Now we go into the question and answer session. Honorable colleagues, before you are representatives of Enugu Disco, the Bureau for Public Enterprises, the very agency that lead the privatization process, the transmission company of Nigeria that will evacuate and will the generated megawatts. The APGC, that is Association of Power Generating Companies, ably represented by Joy O. Ogaji, the Executive Secretary. And of course, the consumers that are ably represented by Chief Okorie, the gas producers, represented by Mr. Akimbele. They've left. So, and we engaged them. Questions were asked and he was able to respond. So now, honorable colleagues and stakeholders, whoever has a question for any of the discussants can now signify his interest to raise the question, please.
Presenting Agota for constituency. My question goes to the BPA. Incidentally, I happen to come from the private sector, you know, and the power sector too. Can you really say that the BPA, you guys were transparent during the privatization or procurement process of the unbundling of the power sector? Because one can see that most of the promoters of this discourse and all that are non-politicians with deep pockets, or people, people who are fronting for them, such that we have not really had very good investment, just like you can see in the communication industry, and that we are, we are where we are here today, with all these issues and problems delivering the sector. Thank you.
Thank you very
a lot from the presenters. I want to start take on the whole value chain itself, starting from BPE, even though my colleague has touched on what part of what I wanted to highlight. The committee needs to look at how transparent the privatization exercise was carried out by the BPE, because from what we have seen over the years, it seems as if the rights companies were not considered for the privatization of these assets. That is one. Secondly, I want to go to the gas suppliers. It baffles me that for 10 good years, gas suppliers are supplying gas to the Gencos. And how are they surviving? For you to be supplying a product for over 10 years and your invoices are not settled, There's a lot of question, Mr. Chairman, to ask. If really the gas suppliers are doing Father Christmas, they are very patriotic. I think we need to take note as a committee and do proper recommendation for these gas suppliers, for the federal government to honor them for this wonderful gesture. Thirdly, Mr. Chairman, TCN. I want to ask why TCN was not privatized. It's still a government entity. Why wasn't it privatized too, along the value chain?
So this question is for the BPE, right?
Yeah, for BPE, and maybe TCN too has something to say.
Maybe they can.
And then for the discourse, Mr. Chairman, I'm surprised that I just heard today that 40% of the discourse equity belongs to the federal government. What I thought was the completely 100% was, sold out to private investors. And this goes to show that there is still a problem. If really government has equity in those companies, definitely we are not going anywhere, Mr. Chairman. Because, like someone said among the speakers, if government still has shares in those companies, we will never get to where we want to be.
So the question is for the BPE now.
Yes.
Tell us why.
Why didn't federal government sell out the entire shares of the discuss?
Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Goes to NEC, that are the regulators. In the power industry, I want to assume, for purposes of analysis, that NEC represents what CBN represents in the banking industry. We all know what was happening in the banking industry years back, where people gather together, open a bank, make Nigerians to deposit money, and they go and start marrying new wives and building mansions, and the bank will collapse. Then federal government will come and start paying depositors. And when CBN under Soludo saw that it was not sustainable, they came up with recapitalization of the banks. And banks were forced by policy to recapitalize. Most of the banks that were private enterprise had to go to the stock exchange to become quoted companies that goes with regulation. And that's how we are all saved. Today, the issue of failed bank is no more there. And that recapitalization continued from 25 million, went to billion. Now, we all know, almost like every 5 years, CBN comes up with another policy of recapitalization of the banking industry. So the number keeps reducing. Then, of course, new players that can muster the investment required now comes also on stream. So, NEC, what are you doing? Why will assets be given out since 2013, and these people are not recapitalizing? And we just leave them to the mercy. We are just pampering them as if it is still government business. I made a comment like this earlier on. So our problems are the discos. They do not have the proper funding to operate in this industry. Maybe apart from one or two discos. Every other disco is epileptic financially. So, NEC, you are not doing your work. You need to look at issue of recapitalization, which will force the discos to become public entities and will now face the scrutiny that goes with proper financial records. So, NEC, look into that. Then the next one is to NUPRC. Now, you said...
PRC is not here.
Oh, the guy is not more here?
Upstream, downstream. And he's not around.
Okay, because I wanted to ask a question. I thought it was one of these guys that said, you people are the people that regulate the pricing of gas. And you, whatever, you're there, right?
He has left. Mr. Ndasu is not here.
Is it?
Honorable Harrison.
But the question, okay, let me still ask this question because it's important. Maybe, because, you know, most times our agencies come here and they reel out figures that are not correct. I know, because I wanted to ask him what is the price for fertilizer, the price of gas for fertilizer companies. I was shocked during our engagement in this gas to find out that the price that is sold to fertilizer companies are cheaper than the price that is sold to power generating companies. I wanted to ask him why. What is that policy about? The fertilizer companies are mostly private companies that do business just to profit. They have practically no social responsibility. Why is their own price cheaper than the price that gas is sold to the Gencos? So that's what I wanted to ask. So since they are not here, please, we need to put this and communicate it to them. Let them tell us the rationale behind selling gas cheaper to fertilizer companies as against the Gencos. Thank you.
Maybe Renaissance can help out with this.
To ensure that issues such as systemic revenue shortfalls, consumer purchasing power, low consumer purchasing power, and cost-reflective tariffs, the system are in place to ensure that this is solved. Also want to know, this metering deficit that we're having, why can't we have meters all around where customer can just walk into a store and buy a meter? Why? Then, for you, is there any collaboration, maybe within the industry like we have in the financial sector, where CBN, PENCOM, NDIC, and the rest are collaborating? Do you have any engagement? Do you have a platform that you collaborate so that at every point in time, there is synergy in policy, in regulations, and so on? That is for NEC. For TCN, sir, you mentioned the fact that there is always this issue of right of way. So for me, I'm worried. I'm worried because if there are issues like this, I believe there should be a kind of engagement or collaboration with relevant agencies of government at all levels.
Yes.
So that anybody that owns the land, those agencies should be able to let them know that there is no way you build a house or build something here because of XYZ issue. So I think I want to know if you have this kind of collaboration. Then for the man from the in Nasarawa State, a lot of money has gone down in that project, over 50 billion as at today, from the states, and it has moved back to the federal government, the Ministry of Water Resources. You have mentioned abandonment and so on and so forth. As a ministry, you have also mentioned in your speech that there was nothing you could do. I mean, if as a ministry you cannot do anything, then where else? Who else will take over some of these abandoned dams? I think the ministry needs to look at some of these things again. The particular one I want you to let us know is the Farinruwa. What is happening? After all the investment in Farinruwa, a whole lot of resource is lying down there. There were a lot of equipment there. In fact, some of them abandoned, some of them stolen, some of them even vandalized. What is really happening? I expect that you tell us that from now to December, the dam in Farinruwa must have been completed. We just spoke just casually about it, and we're talking about taxpayers' money. Maybe you tell us more about it. And our mommy from the association, in the course of your presentation, you mentioned that you were scammed. And I became very worried because you are an investor. If you are going to an investment, you must have looked at the investment very critically. You must have analyzed the investment before going into it. The question I want to ask you, if you were scammed, why are you still in business? For the gas man, the man on Suta, I was worried also, very worried, when he said, your coming here is to come and meet the people that owe you. It is actually alarming. What have you done as an organization to retrieve this money? I'm surprised when you say you met the embed guy during lunch and you're talking about your recoveries. My God, I think something is wrong.
I think something is wrong. Please, we need to be serious, and we need to take some of these things very seriously. So for now, sir, Mr. Chairman, these are the concerns I want to raise. Some of these operators collect short-term loans to finance long-term projects. I mean, even from beginning, from the architecture generally of the privatization of the power sector, I think that is where there is defects. So I'll stop here, sir.
Thank you very much.
Honorable that raised some questions. Actually, it's like you were speaking to my mind of some of the issues I've been wanting to raise. However, on the consumer protection, NARC, I'm so much concerned. In the first place, I'm a member of the Power Sector Committee. So I know what is there when you talk of protection, consumer protection. A lot of money goes there, no doubt about it. And it is still wondering, this is the issue that we have been raising, why we meet, although we have not met for quite some time. And I don't want the consumer protection, the man there, who is actually representing us, to raise another issue because it will take us a long time. The simple issue is this. We have been expending a lot of money on that department. A lot. We have data, no doubt about it. But is it that the advocacy being carried out by that department is inadequate? It's really touching that a consumer, the person representing consumers here is even talking about a nonchalant, or rather he is not even aware of the consumer protection in that department. So I want you to look at it this way. Can you enlighten briefly for the consumers what actually is being done in that department? Secondly, sir, the Honorable Chair, like I said, the last speaker talked about metering, accelerated metering. I believe the essence of that is nothing but to address the issue of commercial loss. And that's why we have a lot of meters here and there. Despite this, this is a question that goes to TCN and NERC and even Discusion. What is the problem with that metering issue? The leakages has not been addressed. What are the strategies you people employed with a view to ensuring that these leakages have been addressed? Somebody talked about some policy issue, the last speaker, but I want to know whether, can you share this insight that is it feasible when we go back to clustering of meters? Can we do that? Meter clustering? Because from all look of things, it's like your strength is not making any effort to ensure that, that leakages have been addressed. Thirdly, sir, my question relates to Madam and NERC. I'm very much interested in NISO. And she mentioned it. This is also issue relating to the ministry. It's a policy issue, no doubt about it. Why are we not giving NISO strategic support with a view to ensure that it has done its job? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Isa Mohamed Anka.
We don't have any role to play in that respect. It is unfortunate for the whole Ministry of Water Resources to mention this very serious issue before the Parliament. Because I know you are aware of many of the hydro power generation plants and activities taking place in so many areas in this country. And you just mentioned that 2 dams in Katsina, Zobe Dam and Jibia Dam, has been concessioned to Ministry of Power. What is the purpose of concessioning the 2 dams? For what purpose? And what is the agreement? What are the purpose? It is better we know.
It's not part of their mandate.
I think this should be part of your mandate. But I want to know critically and detailedly how the concession is done. And after that, maybe we may raise some issues. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very
I
much.
took some notes. I would just like to put out some of these questions. BP, when privatization was designed, was there a timeline for the achievement of the mandate? And if yes, what was that timeline? And do you think that mandate has been met? Then what legislation can help to achieve this? That's for BPE. TCN, what is responsible for the deficit in transmission? Since what is generated is more than what is transmitted. 2, what is responsible for the recent grid collapse? And what measure can be put in place for a permanent solution? 3, what type of legislation can help to tackle the issue of community interference? I know they talked about building houses under the transmission line or something like that. So can we know maybe what type of legislation can help to tackle that issue? So those questions were for TCN. Okay, the second one is what is responsible for the recent grid collapse? And what measure can be put in place for a permanent solution to prevent the collapse? Then NERC, they talk about tariff shortfall. Why should that be a problem on the part of the government? Then NFDPRA, do you suggest more emphasis on embed to pay the GENCOs more than the TCN?
No.
It's not here?
Yes, it's not that much.
Oh, okay. Well, anybody can pick it up. Maybe you can help us with some. I know
It's not that mandate.
the base, Awaga, the gas supplier. Maybe you can help us with that question, if you don't mind. I can repeat the questions. Do you suggest more emphasis on the embed to pay the GENCOs more than TCN? Then embed, what loopholes are the consumers exploiting not to pay their light bills? That's one. Then what's the percentage of consumers that don't pay their bills? Then how and what legislation can cure these problems? Did you get the 3 questions? Or you want me to go over them again? Okay.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
And I listened carefully to the lady that spoke to us, the lawyer. I think I want to suggest that if it is possible, if you permit and members permit, we need to invite her again, maybe in an executive section where she can do some further exposure to what she told us here. I listened and she said she knows where these problems are buried, where their skeletons are. We need to really, have an executive section with her so that we can get more exposure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A decision. I don't know whether you want to come in form of motion.
Considering the exposures the lady lawyer has made in this section, I want to move that this committee do invite her formally to interface with us in an executive section. I so move.
And any other person that has information for the committee to be taken at executive session should do so. I so second, sir. Thank you.
Seconded with amendment that in view of the resourcefulness of Barrister Joy Ogaji and some others, particularly the chairman of Chartered Institute of Power Engineers of Nigeria, SAPEN, and any other person that is so identified to be of immense help to the achievement of the set objective, irrespective of whatever conclusion this summit arrive at, should be invited to Abuja to shed more light on some of the issues that they have raised here. Is that the opinion of the honorable committee members? Is that carried? Those are supposed to say ayes? Aye. Just against nay? So ayes have it. So we invite Barrister Joy O. Ogaji and the president of the Chartered Institute of Power Engineers of Nigeria, SIPEN, and the Power and Energy Consumer Advocacy of Nigeria, Ukedo Bonga, and any other persons who identified to reappear before this honorable committee at a time to be announced. So now we continue.
My question goes to specifically to TCN regarding the issue of transmission lines that are ongoing. There are a lot of projects that are ongoing by TCN, and from the area of franchise where we do operate, we have a project that has been there since 2011. And this project is a 132 line to Mubi. So I don't know what TCN doing regarding this project, because this is very vital to our customers in Adamawa State. And if you look at Mubi, is one of the area where we need much power. Thank you, sir.
Utilized in the power sector. I know it's a combination of associated gas and I think non-associated gas. Please, can we know what percentage of that gas?
The Deputy President, Chartered Institute of Power Engineers of Nigeria, SIPEN. I really want to put in this question to Discusion. The throughput of TSCN is about 8,700 megawatts. And if GENCOs are pushing out about 5,000 or 6,000 megawatts, why are they not able, supposing even the bit that is even transferred to them, why are they not absorbing it? In other words, why the load rejection? That is a critical problem in the sector. Thank you.
We'll provide the answer to the last question, starting from the last. He made mention of whether there is a timeline given to the discourse to actually achieve their mandates. If yes, what time was given to the discourse? Or if there's any need for us to actually collaborate with the National Assembly to see how they can be able to achieve their mandates, we can do so. Well, honorable member, there wasn't any timeline given to the discourse. Yesterday it was clearly mentioned that the discourse were chosen or were selected based on their level of reducing the ATC and C losses. It was one of the basic criteria that was used to select the qualified discourse. We mentioned actually it was about 50% prior to privatization. So some discourse promised to reduce ATC and C losses within a given period of time, 20, some 25, some 23, some 15, some 16, depending on the capacity of the discourse. So it was based on that. And as you can recall, since the privatization took place, the issue of ATC and C losses become a problem. And it's nothing more than an investment. It's your quantum of investment in the network and the level of metering that you have that can assist you to bring down the ATC and C losses. And government has been intervening, giving intervention. A lot of work, even the donor agencies, some of them are even intervening to enable the discourse.
Don't forget, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, to actually reduce it as well. So this is, yeah. So the other question actually, my brother here from Yobe State, he asked question regarding the 40%. Why should the government privatize, GENCOs and the discourse 100%? Yes, that 40% that was reserved, it was reserved for general public. We felt that there is no need to privatize the discourse 100%. We have to reserve 40% for general public. And when? That is the question. The question is, when the discourse actually stabilizes, when their balance sheet is attractive enough for people to come and invest, that is when we can be able to do IPO with the discourse. So as it is today, the discourse don't have even a strong balance sheet that will enable them to go to capital markets.
Of recent, we tried to see a co-disco, but that one did not even work out because they did not meet the conditions for taking them to the markets. So the federal government did not say, okay, we're going to keep that. No. The federal government kept 30% for general public, but when the balance sheet is it's attractive to investors, or it's attractive to go to capital markets. That is the reason why government actually set aside 40%. It's not that government is going to hold up 40% in publicity, no. Yeah. So another question, actually, question of transparency in the privatization process. To the best of our knowledge and to the best of our ability, the Bureau has exhibited high level of transparency in the privatization process. Why? Because first and foremost, is the biggest transaction we have ever had in this country that attracted over 300 investors around the globe that bid it. The transaction was advertised internationally, and we have received bids all over the world. And after we have done the evaluation was not done by the Bureau. Evaluation was done by different agencies of government, including DFID, including World Bank, in the presence of all the security agencies. That is when the evaluation of the bid was conducted that led to the emergence of the core investors that we have today. So this is, I don't know whether there's any other question?
All right, thank you very much.
Sorry, okay, he made mention of why TCN was not privatized. TCN actually was not privatized because of the national issues. And I don't think, I stand to be corrected, I don't think there was any place where transmission line was 100% privatized. Like I said, I stand to be corrected, but I don't know if there was any place where 100% TCN was privatized. The only attempt we made, management contract, was given to Manitoba. Along the line, for whatever reason, it did not work. So since then, we have been making strategy to concession TCN, because you cannot. So, sincerely speaking, I can't tell you why because it being managed by the Federal Minister of Power. So you don't know. It was not managed by BPA.
No problem, we'll raise that issue with the Minister of Power, don't worry.
You can raise it with why actually the Manitoba transaction was.
We'll raise the issue with the Minister of Power.
TCN was not actually privatized, it was a management contract. So, government, whatever government decides to do, government says.
The question is why?
Sell it. We cannot, government did not give us TCN to sell.
The reason is, the question.
Because of national security.
Yeah. So you simply answer.
So, but now, since that time, the government is trying to see if they can be able to concession it. But privatizing TCN 100%, I don't think is the intention of government. But they can bring in concession, yes? Come and manage it.
The answer is a straightforward answer. Yeah. National security. That's all.
National security.
Excellent. So we move to the NEC.
Permit me to stand on the already established protocols. So I'm going to try to attempt to answer some of the questions that were raised by the honorable members and some of the stakeholders present. So the first one has to do with, yes, based on the recapitalization that was done in the banking sector, why haven't we been able to do something similar in the power sector? So quite simply put, one of the challenges that I tried to enunciate earlier on had to do with the fact that back in 2026, when we had a tariff freeze on the R2 customer class, that led to a period of about, that held for a period of about 2 to 3 years, and that period was termed a period of mutual non-compliance between both the government as well as the distribution companies, and as such, the distribution companies could not be held liable for their inabilities to perform during those periods. But fast forward to more recent times, you would find out that the commission have had to dissolve certain boards of certain discos. In particular, you would remember the cases of Ibadan Disco, as well as even Kaduna Disco. As we speak now, there's even ongoing review of Kaduna Distribution Company's performance with regards to their main lenders, Afri-Exim Bank, with regards to how they can turn around the operations of the discos. So the commission is actually not agonistic to being able to flush out non-performing boards. So collaboration and synergy amongst regulators, if I get your question correctly. So I think the Commission, since the passage of the EA 2023, has done quite a lot with regards to being able to play the role of a big brother with regards to transitioning of the market into a more decentralized framework with regards to different supports that we offer to the state regulators. We've had twinning sessions with almost all the state regulators, even at our offices, and even as far back as even just last week, we had staff of the Commission going over to Niger State to do some stakeholdering, as well as education or training of the staff of state regulatory regulators. Then the question on consumer protection, like what's being done. I think as well, I think our colleagues at the from the consumer groups, they've also alluded to the fact that the commission I think, yes, we could argue that we could do more with regards to being able to penetrate down into the local governments, but we also find ourselves in a situation currently whereby what we are then looking to do now is to we're handing over most of these states to the CERCs. So what we're then trying to do is let them know, okay, this is where we've fallen short. This is how you guys can pick up. These are routes in which for states that are yet to transition, you can come back to the commission with regards to the places there we still have our forum offices. With regards to the question on tariff shortfall and what the business of government with regards to tariff shortfall, in my earlier submission, I had made mention that, yes, okay, and I think Dr. Ogaji had mentioned that there's nowhere in black and white where it says that government is going to pay for subsidy. But, you know, policy is done in such a way that if government has alluded to the fact that I am going to pay subsidy up to a certain date, and to the point whereby they've actually made good some of those claims, you know, as far back, even as up to like May 2025, they've underwritten to acknowledge that, yes, there is a subsidy gap in the market. So we do know that, yes, they are going to fulfill that obligation. I think I've tried to cover all the questions. I don't know if I missed anyone out.
Yeah.
All right.
Very much.
Okay.
Just the interaction between NEC, TCN, embed the regulators. Is there any interaction? Because in the financial sector.
We even have something called FONA.
Okay.
Yes, so that FONA is a group set up for NERC and all the CERCs, whereby they would interact and interface. Okay, yes, I think there's one more question, I think, on NISO. Okay, all right, I just remembered the question on NISO. So with regards to support that the Commission is offering to NISO as well. So even as recently as January, February, the Commission organized a 6 billion funding for NISO in order for them to use as like a takeoff grant. It was from there that they were able to, you know, get a building, move their staff from Powerhouse to the new building. And with regards to their approvals, their independence, you know, we always make sure that we have that as top priority. So with regards to metering, so metering has been a big conundrum in the market. There's been a whole plethora of metering initiatives and to fill the metering gap. Of recent, for example, with the MAP regime, when customers had complained about paying for meters and not having gotten refunds for those meters, if you'd follow up as well, as even I personally as a customer, last week I got a text message, you know, telling me, okay, I've gotten this token, so it's meant to be returned as tokens or as units to the customers. So that is currently being done. We have different meter initiatives that are currently ongoing. We have funding from the World Bank to support the metering initiatives. Right now, all the discos are currently installing meters that were bought by the World Bank. So I'm not so much aware how difficult it is, you know, with regards to meters now, because we have that program going, the World Bank program going as well.
Thank you very much. The TCN, please, quickly.
Chairman, Honorable Chairman, and the high table members, stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen. I still remain Engineer AI Sharifai. The first question, I think BP has answered by Honorable Jajeri. So why TCN was not privatized? Security reason, national security reason. That's the answer I have also for that. The Honorable Jeremiah, I think, asked about the right of way and what collaboration are we doing to engage with relevant agencies. If you look at our network, most of our networks that are old, not the new projects, the green, the right of way has already been paid. And these routes have been there for decades. So what was happening, which we realize is either the local governments or the states, that the urban developments, the connivers that are selling our right of ways. Some of the areas that we are able to get such, we collaborated with state governments. Like in Kano, just of recent, the Riemann Zakara, 330 kb, that is from the Kumbotso to Riemann Zakara, which we have a very short distance, but we cannot finish for almost about a year and a half or two. I think the state government was able to settle that. So that project will soon kick off, and then the 330 will be completed. You know, we have already completed the 132, and we are able to backfeed through the line that is feeding Katsina. The Riemann Zakara is still active on 132. But as soon as this 330 is being completed, the 330 at Riemann Zakara will be available. So as regards the right of way, as you said, yes, we used to have problem with some of the areas due to we cannot have all our people along the lines. If you talk of 330 kb, we have thousands of pylons. On one line, we can have up to 450 numbers of pylon towers. That is only 200 kilometers. Talk less of lines that we have of 300s on 132, which is more. So for us to say we have everybody along that, the only thing that will make us know is when our people are patrolling. So once we see that, we inform the management. And if it means our collaborators has to go to the states, we go to the states. But the main problem we used to have is that, as I said, some of the buildings that come off, that crops off, used to prevent our people from doing the preventive maintenance and the patrol for them to know of the other areas, because there are some. Once you block the interest, there is no way you get it until after swampy or a river area. So you will know the magnitude of the buildings that are on that line. What is responsible for energy deficit? I think by Honorable. Honestly, the problem we are having with the deficit in terms of energy, we in the transmission, there is what we call transmission loss factor, which we have a transmission line loss. There are some transmission losses that are agreeable, which anything above that, like now, the NEC rule gives us 7.0. So any loss that is above that, we used to pay. There is penalty for it, which we always do pay. But if it is within or below, we even get incentive by the rule. But in terms of the energy given out, that when generation give us up to that 5,008, as you are saying, oh, we wanted to get to the 6,000. You know, we don't deal with the consumers directly. In our own case, we evacuate, we will, and then send it to distribution. It's only distributors that can give to the load points. The only customers that we have on our line are the industries, which are on 132 kV. And we don't used to have problem with that. The only problem we recognize these days is the stealing, which are more on those industries. Most of these steel companies, they are stealing our energy. So it's part of what is giving our transmission loss factor to be high, which we are working on for us to reduce it. But in a situation whereby I can match this answer with that of Saipen, the vice president that said, why, if we said we can generate 8,700, the highest we gave was 5,801 plus megawatt. The reality is that if we did not receive energy that is above that we can read, as at the time the NISO can inform that yes, as at so point, generation was given to that value and we cannot evacuate. That is the only time that you can really say, yes, transmission is not capable. But the reality is that once you have an energy that is more than what the load can take, you know our frequencies, you must know that the frequency will change. We will have overvoltage. And if we allow the overvoltage to be there, there will be catastrophe to our equipment. So we cannot say that transmission cannot evacuate until when the distribution is carrying that load. As soon as it carries, it rejects, either on overcurrent or there is either other function. The time we did the 5,800, if I could remember, is after the December, January, which we normally carry the highest load, when all our dams are full and most of the gases that are not doing their maintenance are available. Those are the times that we are getting this. But as soon as we start to be having that energy going up, most of the thermal generation at that time, they will say that is their time for turnaround maintenance, of which now NASO is no more agreeing with that. They wanted to plan it in such a way that most of this turnaround will be when the rivers are full, so that when the rivers are not available, this gas will be continuous as and when due. Also, you asked me about the recent Greek collapse, and then what permanent solution. We start to have the big one, which is in 2024, when we had a lot as of recent. So as at that time, we realized it's so much problem on the axis of Jeba, Oshogbo, and Benin. And those are our big substation that gives the bulk power. So as at that time, we are having problem with some of our obsolete equipment. In Jeba, we are having some explosion with our CTs as at that time. And at Benin, we have some underrated lines that cannot carry those loads as at that time, which also increases to that collapse. So for that 2024 to 2025, what we did was to overcome some of the obsolete to be replaced, and where we are having underrated, which the lines are very enormous that we cannot take them out fully and redo them because of the needs for the energy, and they are the main evacuators of the lines. So some were given as to be reconducted, which the project is ongoing. They will soon be done. And some of the 132 that we can do, like Amukpe from the Delta side, it was upgraded. And that's the area we use now that we can carry more load. As such, we had problem, I could remember, beginning of, towards the last year and beginning of this year, on G3B and S4G. That is the Sapele axis, which we cannot evacuate Delta because of vandalization. There was a time we had vandalization. After we finished, in a month's time, those vandals went back. So we were having problem with our vigilante that was there. They were complaining that we are not paying them enough. So, and you know the paucity of funds that we are having as TCN, it is also giving rise to such things. But the lines were done lastly, I think, in March, which were brought back, which is the S4G and G3B, Sapele line. You said the community interference. I hope that's the question, sir. Yes. There is a collaboration we are having with the...
Thank you very much. I think I'll have to stop you from here. The Minister of Water Resources, quickly. We have to conclude.
Thank you very much. I need to just help myself. I'm so sorry for that. I don't take the sitting of the Honorable House for granted. Be that as it may, I want to start with the question from the highly respected Honorable Member who seemed not to understand, to follow what I was trying to say, that the ministry has no business in Adropa. No, I didn't say that, sir. I was saying that the core mandate of the ministry is, water infrastructure and all the rest of that, However, ever since the ministry was a federal department in the Ministry of Agric in those days, the ministry had been building hydropower stations along with our dams. And the evidence are there, sir. I mentioned that of Oyon and all the rest of that. Even some of the infrastructure we have in the far north are there. So it's not to take it lightly or to demean the Honorable House. Be that as it may, we are doing our best as a ministry within the limit of what we can afford to actually work assiduously on these hydropower dams. At least build them, build the power stations, and hand over, because we don't have the mandate to operate it. It must be handed over to PACN, to Ministry of Power, who has the mandate for the running of the infrastructure.
just as somebody builds dam now, we are the one that has the policy formulation for it, for the operation and maintenance, that resides with us. So, be that as it may. And then the honorable member from Nasarawa is quite worried about the Farirua, let me inform you that Farirua Dam is truly on course. Please, I think we started this journey about 3 years ago or thereabout, under the leadership of our former minister, who was passionate about that project, that's Engineer Suleiman Adamu. And sincerely, the contract, the project was actually transferred to the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. They actually called for assistance. It was a state-owned project. However, one thing leads to the other. There are connections here and there and there. And during Governor Al-Makura, it was transferred and we concluded the deal. However, there are two things here. One, because of the way the nation is now, we just have to streamline our things and so that we can manage well. Yes, the government will have to complete the dam. Even though if we have people, private partners who can do that, and with good concession arrangement, we always do that. But it's always difficult to get that. So for now, the concessionaire is nearing completion. In fact, we have 20 megawatts of electricity to be generated there. And the concession agreement have been duly completed, and I think it's been forwarded to the office of the Honorable Chairman of this committee. I believe by the time we get back to Abuja, sir, you'll see that on your table. However, for the dam, we have some issues there, an issue of funding. Unfortunately, if the dam is not in place, there's no way we can generate anything. We only do that to preempt these issues that, let's work simultaneously. While the concessionaire start working on the power station, we want to believe that one thing will lead to the other. The project will be funded, because the project was about 60% completed when we took over. But you'll be amazed that what will be needed to complete that project now will be more than times, if not times 10 of what has been spent on it. And for government to cover that money is a little challenge somehow. So with that, we always crave for your indulgence to assist us in any way you can, so that if we have the finance, we'll definitely complete the work. I think those are the two questions that were given. And then the honorable member asked about the concessioning. That what's the purpose of the concessioning? The purpose of the concessioning, sir, is that government alone can't do this thing. As a matter of fact, government doesn't have the money. I don't want to say government is broke, but government does not have the money. And so, therefore, we come up with the policy that, let's look for able private partners who can help the government. You see, there's no point putting on muscle when you don't have one. You just have to open up and let people know your problem so that you can be properly helped. Otherwise, you can die in silence. So, government has to open up to private sectors to come in and help us. So that's the reason for the concession. And we try as much as possible to make it reasonable. Maybe it will be concession for, maybe it's build, it might be build, operate and transfer. It might be maybe for 20, 30 years. I don't know what is mutually agreed. But by the time you...
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, the Minister of Water Resources. I believe you actually really...
I noted down just two questions. But with your permission, Mr. Chairman and honorable members, I would like to throw light on some of the questions that were asked. For example, the question that was asked, DPE, if there was a timeline on the privatization. The performance agreement has a timeline. There is no way we will design a privatization without a timeline. It will be an open-ended something. So section 2, subsection 2 of the performance agreement clearly states the timeline for the generation companies as well as the distribution companies. Both of these parties signed the performance agreement with BP. And it says, that section says that within 5 years from the date of privatization, these KPIs that were contained in their bid documents must be met. These were captured. And then, like I told you, that was my former life. In my current life, that's 5 years crystallized in my current life as the CEO of the Association of Power Generation Companies. So, and that time fell on October 2018. Yes, 2018. Because if you check from 1st November 2013 to is 2018. So I wrote to the board of the association. I told them that, see, I'm aware of a timeline for the privatization, and within which BP is supposed to assess your performance, because that is what the performance agreement says. Within that 5 years, BP is supposed to carry out an assessment of the performance of generation and transmission, and distribution company. I don't know why I'm calling transmission a lot today. Anyway, I'll talk about them too, if you give me permission. Yeah, so as I was saying, so there is a timeline, sir, and there are KPIs that are clearly delineated. But whether or not that performance assessment was done, I don't have time before my time runs out. If you want, we can talk after this period. Now I go to my question. Were Genco scammed? And if so, why are you still in business? Good question. Very, very good question. Now, the generation companies, I stated that the Gencos were scammed because, like I told you, 172 consortia bidded for this asset. BP can confirm, as I keep saying. And they all looked at everything, all the bidding documents, studied our contracting process, studied our Nigerianization, and all jackpot back to wherever they came from. None of them invested. I said none. So the government, you can remember the then CBN governor, Emir Sanusi, His Royal Highness, also engaged investors. That's these Nigerian investors, begging them, literally begging them. And they told them that they will give them all the guarantees needed. What Azura is currently enjoying was all promised to them before they decided to invest. And so the question is, if you are scammed, why are you still in business? It's a very good question. It's a very, very good question. It's a very, very good question that when I'm in a board meeting, I hear the investors, these are men, the investors nearly close to tears, saying that they regret investing in Nigeria. So why are you still in business? And then another question that I do here is, if Gencos were really dying, why did Geregu go to the stock market? And I want to ask that person, why did Geregu sell? If you are having such a very sweet business, why will you sell? If somebody puts sugar on in your mouth, will you spit it out? And then you will now ask, Transcorp is declaring profit. That is profit in anticipation of when that money will be paid. Not be profit where money there for ground. Nothing. Now paper profit. Sorry, if there are shareholders here, please, I didn't say it. Because, of course, the shares had to keep going. So this is the truth. So if we are scammed, why are we still in the market? Sir, sirs, and ma, with all due respect, sir, the generation companies are still in business, one, because of patriotism, number one. Number two, there has been several allegations. When they threaten to shut down or to pull out, they say, they are PDP members. It is because they are PDP members, that's why they want to do this in an APC government. If it is a PDP government, it's because they are APC. See, when we say power sector is 99% politics and 1% technical, it is true. And that is the reason why the power sector has remained where it is, because we have completely politicized everything. Now, I will finally quickly talk about TCN. Several times TCN makes this presentation and says that the highest the generation companies have generated is 5,800 and whatever. I don't capture the figure because, yes, I'm a lawyer, but I've become a legal engineer over the years. So there is nothing engineering that I cannot talk about, with all due respect to the honorables that are engineers. So please listen to my engineering legal theory. Now, it's international best practice that the capacity of the transmission should be 2 times the capacity of generation capability. Somebody can challenge me, and I'm ready to go on with you. And the capacity of the distribution should be 4 times that of the generation companies, in order to give room for redundancies. Any engineer, please challenge me. Now, if we're going by that calculation or theory, it then means that if currently generation companies have an installed capacity of 15,000 megawatts, distribution companies should have an installed capacity of 60,000 megawatts times 4. 15 times 4. Now, the transmission should have 30,000 megawatts, not even 8,700. And meanwhile, with all due respect to the engineers, there is a difference between simulation and actual. The generation companies, when we talk about installed capacity, is nameplate. Anybody go and check all their machines. You will get a total of over 15,000 megawatts. It was not simulated on a laptop. If we simulate our own, it will reach 40,000. Because computer, you simulate what based on the data you put inside the computer. So when we talk about 8,700, and today it was already all over the news on Punch newspaper that transmission said they can transmit. Now, another final legal engineering I want to issue here is this. Now, power generation is instantaneous. Engineers, please challenge me too. Instantaneous meaning that as it is being generated, it must be consumed. We cannot give more than what you can take. Because, and to do that, the system does what we call day-ahead declaration. What the generation companies will generate today, tomorrow, by 12 o'clock today, NISO has already asked them, Transcorp, Ugeli, how much can you generate? Transcorp says, let's say, 400 megawatts. Egbin, you have installed capacity of 1,320. How many of these can you generate? Let's say Egbin says 600. Now it will go and take all the figures round. And then it will call the discos. How many can you take tomorrow? The discos will also give their figure. Then they will ask TCN, what are your capability to also take power? It's a reconciliation of this that the system operator will call back Gencos. Transcorp, you say you can do 400 tomorrow. We can't take 400. Please, we can only take 250. Egbin, you said yours is 600, but we cannot take 600 because there are bottlenecks. Based on transmission and distribution bottlenecks, we cannot take your 600. We can take only 400. And this is how the system operator calls round. It is after the reconciliation, before everybody is set, the next day, to be able to generate. It will interest you to know that even with this reconciliation, and we call it the declared capacity, that is declared to be generated because all parties have accepted. Oh, it will interest you to know that tomorrow morning, as the Egbin have already gotten gas, the gas supplier is here now. When they reconcile the figure between gas and Gencos, the gas invoices were more than even what Gencos invoice embeds. You know the reason why? I will tell you. Now, when they have, let's say Egbin, one of these gas suppliers is Chevron. Chevron has agreed to give them X megawatts. And for purposes of understanding for others, every 1 million scope generates 4 megawatts. So if they've taken, let's say, 400 for a gas watt that can generate 100 megawatts, and they've already started piping it in the morning because already the contract, everybody, the gas supplier, the transporter has been notified. Tomorrow morning, I'm generating 100 megawatts. I need the gas. The gas is already coming. And then suddenly the weather changed because we're in rainy season. And then system operator called, no, Egbin, you cannot come. No. The discos are rejecting load. Oh, transmission cannot take. Their feeder has gone off it. You need to see the Africa magic that goes on.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Thank you so much. You have responded to some of the issues.
Two questions were directed at me, at MBET. However, there are some other comments from before that, if you permit, I'll need to, add some clarity to them. The first question is that, and I need to reiterate again, MBET does not pay TCN. MBET only pays Gencos because of capacity and energy that they've generated. Payments to TCN is done by EMO, who is in NISO. So I need to clear that again. I already cleared that earlier. So that's the first one. Then the second set of questions are 3 in 1. The first one is, what are the loopholes that consumers exploit while avoiding paying their invoices? Second one is, what percentage of that non-performance? And the third one is, what legislations can be applied to cure? If I may, Honorable Member, that question
I said a few things about non-payment as a Nigerian. Before NBT, I am first a Nigerian, and I live in a society like every one of us. And I personally know, I've lived in many parts of the country, there are places, just like it was said earlier by, I'm not sure which, where you have consumers that are connected to consumers, and then the metering gap becomes massive. So these are things that we see, regardless of whether I'm a participant in the power sector or not. We know. So I only said that based on me as a Nigerian. And Mr. Chairman, sir, this set of questions should be directed at the DISCO, not MPT. MPT doesn't interface with end users, Mr. Chairman, sir. So that's that. Then the other comments that I'd like to clear out from previous session is, like Mr. Chairman said, I didn't answer the waterfall arrangement in terms of payments. So MBT doesn't work with the waterfall payment of the total inflow from the DISCOs. Like I said earlier, the CBN has full oversight on the money received from the DISCOs through an escrow. MBT only gets a portion that's supposed to go to the GENCO, so we don't administer the waterfall, please, sir. The other question is interest, that DISCOs are complaining about interest. Yes, Mr. Chairman, and BP is here. During the privatization, the DISCOs and every other participant interested in the process had to do a due diligence, had to look at all the industry agreements that Barrister spoke about in the virtual room and all the other sources of information. Part of what they had to agree to, Mr. Chairman, sir, is a vesting contract, which says outstanding payments will be liable to interest. They agreed to that. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, sir, the market rules that governs the entire power sector clearly states that outstanding invoices will bear interest. So where they push back on interest, I think that's out of place, because these are things that have been signed to. The other item which I want to clear out, Mr. Chairman, sir, is the Eurobond that has been spoken about by two participants on the panel. The Eurobond wasn't meant for paying GENCOs. It was meant to strengthen MBT's balance sheet for investors from across the borders. And the amount for that bond was 350 million euros, not 850. MBT had to return the money back to government as was directed. So the earlier spokesperson from Azura said he advised MBT not to. MBT cannot work outside what government directs.
Why? Is that why they call this scam? That sounds like
No, honorable member, sir, that money was.
That's creative account. That's window dressing.
Mr. Chairman, government directed MBT to refund the money.
That is called packaging.
All the documentations have been submitted to the ad hoc committee.
You are flashing the account to investors to make your balance sheet look good, but it really doesn't look good.
Honorable member, it's a directive, and we can only work with. I don't know, sir. Well, I needed to clarify. Okay, sir.
So why haven't you settled the gas supply?
Okay, so to speak to gas supply, right? Some issues were mentioned about the PAF, Payment Assurance Facility, $700 and $600 million. So all the funds were fully disbursed to GasCos and all the relevant parties. These are documents that have been submitted to the ad hoc committee for review. And just like Mr. Chairman said, the committees, that's part of the committee's terms of reference, and they will do justice to that. Regarding other payments to GasCos, right? So there's an initiative of NERC, which is the GSSF framework, which is the Gas Supply Stabilization Fund. What that program was to ensure that, because the primary feedstock of the power sector is gas. And if we can secure gas, then we are kind of halfway into securing power generation to end users in Nigeria. That was instituted in July 2022. And for the first 13 months, all gas invoices were paid 100%. All gas invoices that were covered under the GSSF implementation agreement were paid 100%. Other gas invoices outside that needed to be fully settled by the GenCos, respective GenCos that were not part of that GSSF. So we have had some successes in the gas payments. However, the reason why after that period, after the first 13 months, we couldn't achieve 100% payment was because of FX volatility. So the initial funding, so the GSSF was sized at a certain amount of volume, gas volume, which had a cost. But because price was on an upward trajectory, but the funding remained stagnant. So it means that the funding cannot go as far as it should. So it got depleted after the first 13 months. Thereafter, we started applying a prorated payment to both GasCos and GenCos. At the initial point, GasCos were getting 100% payment, where then GenCos were receiving the balance of their invoice. Thereafter, we started doing whatever the market pays. For instance, if the market pays 30% or 40% of the invoice MBT has issued to them, we then go ahead and give gas the same 40% and GenCos 40%.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please hand over to the next person. Yes, you can address some of the questions that are...
Thank you. The question, is it sustainable, is to ask ourselves that question. Is it sustainable to keep the country? Yeah.
Another thing I want to ask, because the way yes, can I have the mic? Okay, the thing there is another thing I want to add.
Business. So first and foremost, we have to be commercially viable before you can talk about us meeting the GDO. So if we are not viable and we are not making money, we will simply shut down. If you look at the policies around DGDO, it enables us to say the reasons why we did not meet it. So if the reasons why we did not meet it is that we are not getting paid, we will not suffer any penalty. So if you want us to respect just those policies, it means we will just simply shut down and nobody gets power within the country. So, but when we supply, even though we haven't gotten paid, yes, we are meeting our domestic gas obligations, but we are primarily not shutting down simply because we understand the impact on the country. Otherwise, commercially, we shut down, we explain to NMDPRA, and then we move ahead, and there's nothing more anybody can do. You understand? So that's the first question. Then the question as to why is fertilizer cheaper than power? I wish NMDPRA was here to answer the question. However, what I can share with you is that there's no fixed price for fertilizer. It is a range from a floor price to the domestic base price. And every month it is calculated by an NDPRA and then they issue the price. But the main, what they say is the reason is that the federal government of Nigeria has taken a core decision to give subsidy by supporting farming. So they give it at source to fertilizers, so that companies can produce fertilizers, so that farmers can get fertilizer to support farming, crop, and everything. So you're not getting to the next problem. So we have issued a subsidy at the entrance to the fertilizer companies. Now the fertilizer companies have now invested so much that more than half of their products is now being exported. And therefore they are getting subsidized for exporting fertilizers to other nations. We have to deal with it one way or the other. But for now, that's what the policy says, and only a policy change can affect that. But that's what they tell us, and we have to abide by it. The third question asked about what we supply the domestic gas companies, whether they are NAG or AG. What we can say is this. Even if we supply gas, if we produce gas from an AG source, because of the policy from NGIC that says that the gas that goes into the pipeline is standardized, it means that we have to process the gas and remove whatever else had been there by the fact that the gas is not coming from a NAG plant to ensure that the gas meets the spec for the domestic gas spec and then put it inside. So we actually spend more money to ensure that AG gas becomes NAG gas for the purpose of domestic operations. And that is important because there are various industries that use it. So you want to ensure that everybody is sending the same kind of gas. The industries also know the quality of the gas they will receive, and also to protect the gas pipeline. So whether it is NAG or AG, the power plants, the fertilizer company, they all get the correct domestic-based the spec of gas supplied to all of them. And then we have to suffer losses because we want to supply it to the domestic market ab initio if they are from AG sources. So those are, my Honorable, you actually asked the question.
Thank you very much, Engineer, Mr. Akin Bello. Quickly, I don't know whether there's any question.
Is the problem with metering, how we can block the leakages. If we should go back to bulk metering, which is clusters. The second one also has to do with what loopholes are the customers exploiting not to pay their bills. These two I can just use, try to cover them with just my answer, one of the answer I want to give. Mr. Chairman, Nigerians are very clever. We are blessed, and we're very clever. Unfortunately, we are very clever. Unfortunately, some of us are deploying it in the wrong way. While we are bringing out, adopting technology best practices to block tampering, meter tampering and meter diversion of supply, our people are always ahead of us in trying to mitigate that. Many of us, if not all the discos, we have a AMI platform, automated meter infrastructure, the head-end systems and meter data MDMS maintenance system. This actually sees what happened in the meter in real time. But customers have a way of tampering with the meter in such a way that you don't even see. So the meters, before the wire gets to the meter, they will have diverted it gets to the meter. So you don't even see it from the meter. There are some of them that are tampered internally. We have adopted tamper open. We even went ahead to now do what you call ultrasonic sealing. Ultrasonic sealing is such way that you cannot, there's no way you can decouple the back from the meter. We use, is embedded in the meter. But customers use what they call sealing guns. They use sealing guns to cleverly open it and do tampering. So the problem we have, the solution we have here is if the honorable body could help us with special courts for sanction. By the time you get these people and you go through the usual rigors of court cases, it takes a longer time. So we will advocate that this honorable body will help us by having special courts that can deal with these issues very, very fast. Because it's deterrent. If you can get these customers and sanction them, and people are seeing that they are being sanctioned, it will reduce the rate at which they tamper with meters. You can only reduce the rate, the number. You cannot really say we want to eradicate tampering with meters or diversion of lines. It may not be possible, and I'm not sure it's possible elsewhere. But with the technology we have, we can locate them, some of these guys who are tampering with our meters, but we need special courts to deal with them urgently. Then, CPEN spoke, so this is the second one. CPEN spoke about energy rejection. In this course, we don't call these things energy rejection. You call them curtailment. The truth is that all the lines are banded, right? All the lines are banded. So if I have a band D in a 33 kV line, you cannot give them 24 hours of supply. Because in the design for our PIP, we have said that we have transmission station somewhere that is located almost 540 kilometers from the load center. So if those people are giving light 24/7, the line cannot cope, that is one. And the degree of losses you are going to get there, you may get up to 70 or 80% ATC and C loss. So they are already part of our PIP, which I have designed. So we can put various transmission stations, bring them closer to the customers, and also where we are going to interpose our distribution substations to reduce losses. So when you give, you have generated 5,000 megawatts of supply, and you are giving the discos 5,400. There's no way they can take the total because of the abandon of the various feeders. In AEDC, for example, we have 120 customer feeders that are on band A. The rest of the 230, they are all in band B, D, C, E. So there's no way you can convert all of them to band A and say you want to take everything that comes from TCN. So that is part of the problem. And when people look at it as if we are rejecting load, you have to curtail the load so that you don't increase the losses. Because finally we have to pay the value chain. If we don't make this money, there's no way we can pay TCN or Jankos. So we have to, Discos have to be careful to make sure that supplies are taken to the customers where they have the power to pay and will not have so much losses. So this is what I have to say in that trip. Then probably when we get to the syndicate groups, we may need to, I may need to speak about certain things that I've been saying here. We need to tidy them up a little bit so that the honorable members can get the right information. For example, if you don't mind, I'll just say one. The case, somebody saying that the distribution companies can just pay anything if they don't meet their DRO, and that's the distribution remittance order, that they are not sanctioned. That is not completely true, because our account is escrowed. And everything that is paid by the customers is not even seen by the DISCO. It's escrowed, being operated by Meristem. And if you don't meet your DRO, you don't get your second tranche of OPEX. If you don't meet your DRO 100%, your second tranche of OPEX is not given to you. The first tranche you receive 50%, but when you, after looking at whatever you have paid, and it's not up to 100% of the remittance obligation, you don't get your second tranche. So there's nothing for you to operate. So the second tranche is divided for payment of the MBET and the rest. So this is just one. The second one also, finally, is that okay, she's not here, the association chairman for Gencos. Nameplate value is not the same with installed or available capacity. It's not the same. Okay, it is nominal. No, what I'm saying is that no Genco can do 100%. Right? So, but I'm saying that if you have a nameplate value, which is what you call installed capacity, it is different from the available capacity which you are able to give out.
Thank you very much.
So I just want to say that. I want to put that out there so I can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank
you. Chief Okore, I don't know whether there's any question for you.
Oga that is saying this thing. The people, I can bring evidence tomorrow. It's just that here is Lagos. If it's Abuja, I'll bring evidence of private accounts that your people gave people that paid to them. These private accounts and these people that come with POS, rather than giving receipt, your people don't give receipt. And they pay money. Where does those monies go? And you are here saying, all these meters in communities, that these transformers, you don't put meter. What is the reason? There's no accountability, no transparency. So if you keep saying, honorable members, sir, misinformation or misleading information is very wrong. And this is why we frown at NEC, not really enlightening consumers on the customer protection regulations and not monitoring the DISCOs effectively. Because misinformation, I'm aware that many transformers in communities have no meter. How do you generate the money you collect from them? What quantity of energy do they use? Then you don't give receipt, you don't give bills. In communities in Imo State now, you don't give bill. You are owing 697,000 million on non-compliance penalties from the regulator. You are not licensed in Imo. You are collecting money. It's illegal operation. So how can you come here and say that consumers don't, that the metering thing? Because you should report, sir. Let me tell you, sir. In section 209, 210, 211, they are all on electricity theft, vandalism, even sale of stolen electricity material. Oga, which unit in your company, NEC, which unit is monitoring or enforcing those provisions? And who have you reported to the police? None. So you tell lies against consumers. And because no penalty for misleading information. So that's why we are asking, let there be consumer protection agency. Let that agency now verify these facts, these are lies that are telling against consumers. They can be mistaken.
Thank you very much, Chief Okore. Please hand over the mic.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Quickly, we know what the DISCOs are saying. The MD Enugu DISCO, can he tell us the level of metering in his own franchise area? Can he tell us the level of metering? Listen, Mr. Chairman, please. This narrative of customers are not paying for electricity, customers are doing this, customers are doing this. In 2018, in Abuja, there's a location that has 32 transformers, Lokogoma axis, Kabusa axis, Galadima axis. We conducted a survey in that area. And from that survey we conducted in that area, we discovered, one, poor infrastructure that made the AT, aggregate technical losses in that area, to rise to as high, not AT-C&C. Cut off the aggregate technical commercial and collection losses. Cut off the two C's. But the aggregate technical losses, and we discovered that the aggregate technical losses was as high as 57%. In other words, if there is improved, and what was responsible for that? It was the communities that were responsible for providing distribution infrastructure. They will get a 100 mm conductor, unwind it into 3, and now connect it to a conductor that's about 150 or 2, that is thing. So the load loss, the voltage losses was so high. And our report was what AEDC used to obtain a $9 million grant from USAID. And they invested and installed the first 3,864 meters and upgraded the infrastructure. The revenue collection from that area rose from below 20 million. Now it's going to about 300 or 500 million.
Thank you very much.
So what we are saying, sir, is this. The discos are aware that to cover up, thank God you invited me for the executive section. I'll bring you information. I'll bring you data. The discos, to cover up all this mess, they don't adhere to the monthly energy caps placed on estimated billings. Estimated billing has been a low-hanging fruit for a very long time. And we made so much talk, those of us who have the privilege in the media, we made a lot of noise about this. Now, I cite an example. I was on Arise Television, where I showed to the world, to Nigerians, where a distribution company, that in that particular month, the energy cap approved by the Commission NEC was 339 units to be used in billing. They used 4,800 units. Now, in the records of the DISCO, that consumer is going. So, when we want to go into debt verification and reconciliation, can the DISCOs defend the figures they are rolling out?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask one question? My question goes like this: I don't know who is.
Today's session has been very, very interesting. Yes. No, just the list. Very interesting. I must sincerely also thank the panelists. We have been seated for close to 3 hours. That has gone a long way to demonstrate the commitment, the patriotism, and the collective resolve we all have to change the situation for better. God will lead us right. There will be a way at the end, the light at the end of the tunnel. At this juncture, honorable colleagues, we have come to the end of today's session. And the panelists have done justice to their various areas of calling. And of course, the honorable members have raised fundamental questions. But you know, it's a process. We are getting somewhere. With the information and the resource we are able to gather from here, I believe our report is certain to be, positively shaped towards getting the sector better going forward. So thank you very much for being here. While you are seated, I want to re-emphasize that the syndicate groupings take effect immediately. And we expect that from now on to tomorrow, 2 o'clock, before the lunch, the syndicate groups will work, and we are going to have a report through a panelist session like this, and then we issue a communique, and we call it a day. We are trying to compress everything to 3 days instead of 4 days, so that on Thursday, people can, return back to their respective destinations. As earlier mentioned, we have 7 syndicate groups to discuss 8 syndicate groups to discuss 8 thematic areas identified. Group 1 is to discuss and work thoroughly on issues surrounding the privatization, the flaws, mistakes, gaps, and what can be done to correct those identified gaps. So it's caption effectiveness or otherwise of privatization, where we have Honorable Fuad Laguda leading, with Honorable Salisu Yusuf Majigiri, Honorable Hassan Bala, the BPE, is to lead the discussion, a technical session. There are other resource persons and stakeholders under the group: the Ministry of Power, Ministry of Budget and Planning, Ministry of Water Resources, Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading, representative of the JANCO, and the representative of the DISCO, and the HSA to President on Energy. The second group with the following thematic area: policy and reform issues and future of the regulated power sector with state electricity market. The amendment of the Constitution that moved electricity-related oversight or issues to the subnationals, to the concurrent legislative list, anchored by the Electricity Act of 2023. It's a positive development, but are we prepared? How many subnationals can generate, transmit, and distribute? It's a great question, so we have to look at how that collaboration can work. We have Honorable Isa Mohammed Anka, who is to chair, Honorable Dumnene Deko, Honorable Yusuf Billy Osawaru, the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading to lead discussion on technical issues, while we have the NEC, the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, Association of Power Generation Companies, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, and different representatives of state electricity commissions, board or ministries. Like here we have the Inugu, we have Ibadan, there's Engineer Mohammed Shani, all those that have indicated their interests, because the list is long, are members of the committee. The syndicate group 3 with thematic area generation, transmission, and distribution challenges. We have x-rayed most of the issues here. And we must say there must be a way forward. We have to find it. We have Honorable Dalia Fong Chalom, engineer, who is to lead the committee. Honorable Olaide Mohammed, Honorable Engineer Dominic Okafo, as members of the committee with the Niger Delta Power Holding Company to lead discussion at technical session with EGBIN, APGC, and Azura as co-stakeholders. And other stakeholders here, there are too numerous, but I will mention some, like Dr. Joy Ogaji, Olu Sei Olarawanju, Engineer Hassan Ilyasu of Pacific Energy, Dr. Wilson Ali Saipen, Adamu Abdullahi, Yusuf Abdullahi, Masoud Salisu, Jos Electricity Distribution Company itself, Aba Power Limited, Electricity, Apple, Transmission Company of Nigeria, Nigeria Independent System Operator NISO, Nigeria Electricity Management Services, Authority NEMSA, Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company, Pastor Engineer Paul Chiroma, Engineer Abdullah Ibrahim, and Raymond Kau, among others. There's also Ekweku Vincent, Engineer Evans Miska, Engineer Dominic Okafo. Oh, we have Engineer Dominic Okafo as member. Is there any other twin brother to Engineer Dominic Okafo here? So, and then Umar Hashiru from Kaduna Disco. On group 4, thematic area liquidity and tariff related challenges. Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission is to lead. We have Honorable Buba Jajere as the chairman from the AD-HOC from the committee, the Honorable Ladi Aguye, member, Honorable Ali Adeyemi Tawfiq, member, CBN, NEC, Association of Discourse, to serve as the co-stakeholders, with Idris of the CBN, Enugu Disco, Central Bank, Nigeria Independent System Operator, Mabon, Benin Electricity, and Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company as members. We have group 5. The thematic area is the gas for power question and the Petroleum Industry Act. We have Honorable Egene Victor Afam as the chair, and the Honorable Koko Salisu, Honorable Okbara Kafilat, Honorable Bala Hassan Abubakar as members, with lead stakeholders, NGIC, NMPRDA, NUPRC, SEPLAT, NEPL, Shell, Engineer Rosaline Oji of Pacific Energy, and Engineer Christian Okori, and yes, I have mentioned SEPLAT. All these are key stakeholders. That's Group 6, Legal and Regulatory Framework Audit. Honorable Harrison Wadike will chair the group, with Honorable Jafar Yakubu, member. And the other stakeholders, Barrister Sani Abubakar, the Barrister Kabiru, Rashida Jakubu on the side of the Secretariat, and Imo State Electricity Regulatory Commission, Enugu Electricity Regulatory Commission, Ibadan Electricity Regulatory Commission, Ministry of Budget, and Ugo Opegere as members. Group 7, synergy and collaboration with subnationals and other stakeholders. We have Honorable Jeremiah Umaru as chairman, Honorable Afam Ogeni, member, and the 2 other members. While the key stakeholders, we have Yusa Jonathan of the CBN, Yemi Adedayin, Stilo Ogbonda, and Rapi Ubello. The last group, Group 8, thematic area, safety, energy, alternative power, captive power, and consumer protection. We have Honorable Sajas Ogun as chairman, Honorable Jinja Ouse, member, 2 other members, with Chief Principal Okorie, Saipen, and other consumer protection groups that are here as members of the group. As I've said earlier, honorable colleagues and our distinguished stakeholders, the mandate of the committee, these groups, is to look at the various submissions deeply, come up with possible solution. We expect their report by 2 p.m. today. So at this, tomorrow. Thank you very much. At this point, panelists, I thank you sincerely on behalf of the House of Representatives, by extension the National Assembly and this ad hoc committee. We say thank you very, very much for being those patriotic Nigerians we expect you to be. Particular appreciation to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission for making it possible for this event to hold. And at this juncture, I will use my veto to say we have come to the end of this event and that this session is adjourned to tomorrow by 10 a.m. Thank you so much.
And then the members of the nations now. So I will allow the MC and the clerk to announce the grouping. Thank you very much.
Go for the lunch, because I understand the lunch time is